Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So here we are to study another scripture by itself, Yoga Vasistha. Okay, so for Yoga Vasistha, I think it's not there as a widely read book now, but earlier Yoga Vasistha was one of the widely read books. Today we read more of Ramayana, but not more of Yoga Vasistha. And Yoga Vasistha is also not a reading text, it's also more of a philosophical text. So it's very deep, it's very, very comprehensive. Okay, and so it's one of, you can say it is one of the great works like the Mahabharata, or in fact more than the Mahabharata also. Okay, so as the name suggests, there are two words in it, no? One is yoga and the other one is Vasishtha. Okay, now when we look at Yoga Vasishtha, we are looking at a very philosophical text, like it is a text on Jnana Yoga. Now there are four parts to yoga, no? There is Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Raja Yoga. So Jnana Yoga is more of the understanding, the knowledge part. Okay, when you have that, so this Yoga Vasishtha will come under the Jnana Yoga part, because it's fully practical. And so like what I said, it talks about the practical yoga in the form of stories. That's more interesting, because whenever we see practical, the word practical, we'll think that it is only concept based kind, but there is no story. It will be very hard to digest. It will be a dry subject. That's what everybody see. With the moment we talk about concept, why a lot of people sometimes, people don't want to understand science, because it's more of concept. It's not in the form of a story, they say. Right? So here, this is very interesting. Practical yoga it is. And so, but though it is practical yoga, the more concepts are there, but at the same time, there are more stories also in it. In the form of stories, the whole practical will be taught. So like what I said, word yoga, I think we all know what it is. Right? Yoga means, it comes from the root word yuj. Sanskrit dhatu is yuj. That means union. Okay. And so because it is also practical, because it's also philosophical, because it's also about the union, this Yoga Vasistha is also called Jnana Vasistha. Okay, so the another name for Yoga Vasistha is Jnana Vasistha. There are many names. We'll see that. Now here, who's the author? Who composed it? Again, it is Valmiki, sage Valmiki only, who also compiled Ramayana, also compiled this great book. Okay. Now here actually what it is Yoga Vasistha is the whole thing where Valmiki is giving the explanation to Rishi Bharadwaja. Like how, because in Yoga Vasistha also there is one teacher and there's one student. The teacher is Vasishtha and the student is Sri Rama. Okay. Same thing when the narration is happening, whatever has happened between sage Vasishtha and Sri Rama, here Valmiki is telling the same thing to Bharadwaja. Okay. So though there's one teacher and one student there where it happened, and it has been told by another teacher to another student. Okay. So it talks about union of the soul with the supreme soul, which we saw. Now we will see what it is now. Okay. Now this, like what I said, this, since it's a lot of stories here we're telling, so it's very different from the other Vedantic texts. Now, what are the other Vedantic texts? Some of them are Bhagavad Gita is another Vedantic text. Atma Bodha is there, Tattva Bodha is there. So there are, all these are philosophical texts. But if you look at it, like let's take the example of Bhagavad Gita. Is there any story in Bhagavad Gita? We don't find stories in Bhagavad Gita. It's, though the explanation is good, we can understand, all that is fine, but it is not coming in the form of a story. But here, this Yoga Vasistha is different from other Vedantic texts because it has stories also. It is not just the concepts. So it has Siddhanta, which is the concept, told with the story format, which is the Drashtanta. So it uses the Drashtanta to tell the Siddhanta. But if you look at the other texts, you will see even Upanishads, for example, it will talk about the Siddhantas. And the Puranas is actually giving you the Drashtanta. Through Puranas, through the stories, we can understand the Upanishads. But it is in two different texts. But here we'll have the Siddhanta and the Drashtanta both in one text itself. Okay. So what is another one which has only, Drashtantas? Bhagavatam is another one which has all the stories. Ramayanam is also having lot of stories. Mahabharatam is also having lot of stories. Yeah, Bhagavad Gita is part of it, but the other part is still having all the stories in it, right? So here, Yoga Vasistha, it's a long journey. It has 32,000 shlokas. Not just one, not just two, not just 21, 51, 101. No, it's 32,000 shlokas. So it is also, so another name for it. We saw Yoga Vasistha, Jnana Vasishtham is another name for it. Now another name, it's called as Maharamayana. So Yoga Vasistha is also called as Maharamayana. Why? Because this is also the story of Rama. Yeah. But here he is a student. In Ramayanam, he was a prince. Right? But here in Yoga Vasistha, Sri Rama is a student. So then, 32,000 shlokas, who will study so much, who will understand so much? So then some people, condensed it. Okay, and made it 6,000 shlokas, from 32,000 to 6,000 shlokas, and it is called as Laghu Yoga Vasistha. Laghu, less. Okay, it is also, so some writers have done this to make it more smaller, to make it more concise, so that it is, the moment 32,000 will say, oh no, let's keep it aside. We don't need to study this. We will tell, right? So that people at least get into it. If there is 6,000, then maybe it will be a little more easier. Some people might choose to study. So they made it 6,000 shlokas and called it as Laghu Yoga Vasistha. Then again, there are some people who have condensed it also, but let's not get into that detail. Okay. So yoga, we saw yoga, the word yuj, it is called as yujyate anena iti yogaha. Yujyate anena iti yogaha. So yoga means yujyate. Yujyate of what? The Jivatma with the Paramatma, or recognizing the oneness is yoga. Okay. Now we will see what is Vasishtha also. Yeah. So instead of, you can make a note of that. So Vasau plus Sthitaha equals Vasishthaha. Okay. Or Vasishthasya Jnanam Vasishtha. Vasishthasya Jnanam Vasishtha. Okay, so what is it? What do you mean by Vasau and Sthitaha? Vasu means wealth. What wealth? the supreme wealth, the wealth of knowledge. And one who abides in that infinite knowledge is Vasishtha. One who abides in that infinite knowledge is Vasishtha. Yeah. So, who is abiding in that infinite knowledge? Maharshi Vasishtha, because he was a great rishi who knew in and out, who had understood who is Brahman, who was a self-realized rishi. Right? So, what we are saying is Vasishtha is one who is there inside, who knows, who follows, or who understands that he is one with the Brahman, or he is one with the Supreme. Okay. So, or the other one is what we saw, Vasishthasya Jnanam Vasishtha. That means the knowledge given by Vasishtha is Vasishtha. Yeah. Vasishtha, Vasu. Again, you saw that it is wealth of knowledge. So, the one who gives the wealth of knowledge is Vasishtha. Okay. So, what knowledge? Knowledge of the Supreme, the knowledge of our true self. So, this is what your Vasishtha reveals to Sri Rama. The essence of our own self. Who am I? That answer is being given by Vasishtha to Sri Rama. So, now we will see that there are 6 prakaranas in it. There are 6 sections in this. The 6 prakaranas, so the chapters has been divided into, that's called as, the chapters are called as prakaranas. First one is Vairagya Prakarana. Okay. It talks about dispassion or indifference, the discrimination part. Vairagya Prakarana. So here Sri Rama was in a state of vairagyam. He didn't know what to do. He was confused. That part has been seen in the Vairagya Prakarana. The next one is Mumukshu Prakarana. Mumukshu means what? One who longs, one who has that longing to know something. Okay. So Mumukshu Prakarana is longing for liberation. What is the ultimate longing that we all have? Is liberation. Utpatti Prakarana. So to know about liberation, we need to understand first the creation. Before we go into that, let's start. What do we know? How do we start off knowing what is this Jagat? What is this creation? That happens in Utpatti Prakarana. Then, once you know the creation, it's not enough. We need to also know the sustenance part of it. So, Sthiti Prakarana, which talks about preservation or existence of it. Upashanti Prakarana on the dissolution part. And Nirvana Prakarana on the liberation. So, though we have the Mumukshu Prakarana longing here, but just by longing, you won't get, either you can't skip from Mumukshu to directly to Nirvana. It's like going from 1st standard to 10th standard directly. Doesn't happen. You need to understand these 3, then only we get into the last one. Okay. So that is what we will be looking at slowly. So first, let's look at the first verse of it. And this first verse is like a Mangala Charanam. It will be recited. So from now on, before we start the class, we will start with this shloka. Okay. Yatas sarvani bhutani pratibhanti sthithani cha yatraivopashamayanti tasmai satyatmane namaha. So this is the first verse. Okay. We will get into the details of this now. What is each one of it? Okay. Yataha. Yataha means because of which. Because of which. Sarvani bhutani. All beings. All the beings. pratibhanti, they reveal, they manifest, they appear, because of which all living beings appear, and sthitani, sustain. Okay, they come, they sustain, yatraivopashamayanti, and to which all goes back. So nice, no? Because of which all living beings, or all beings, not even living, all beings appear, they sustain, and to which all goes back to that power, to that energy. Tasmai Satyatmane Namaha. Salutations, namaskaram. To what? To that eternal existence, which is the only truth. Satyam is that is the only truth. That truth which is kalatita, which is there in the past, which is there in the present, which will be there in the future also. Only that truth is there in all. That to that energy, to that truth, we bow down. Okay. Now, for this, if you look at it, it looks very simple. What is there in it? It is just we're saying that God is there. We were born because of that God, and we sustain and we go back to that. Okay, but how much have we understood this particular thing? Now you look at it. You take. We'll take the example of a pot. What is pot made of? Clay or mud, right? Now, was the clay there before the pot? Was the clay there before the pot was made? It was there. When the pot was made, yeah, it was used, made. When the pot breaks, will the clay remain or not? Or the clay goes away with that? No, the clay remains. So, the clay is like the divine, the pot is like us. Because from the clay, we are made, we sustain. When the pot breaks, goes back to that clay only. But in all the three states, past, present, and future, what remained? Only the clay remained. Right? So clay was there in the past before the pot was made. Clay is there in the present, which is the pot. Clay is there in the future when the pot breaks. Now, the same thing, we'll look at it. If a gold bangle is made into a chain, a gold bangle is made into a chain. So, what disappeared? Bangle disappeared. What appeared? Chain appeared. But what is that which did not appear nor disappear? The gold. When the chain was made, also gold was there. When the bangle was made, also the gold was there. Later, when there is a ring which is made, that time also gold is there. When from the chain, a bangle has been made, chain disappeared. Only bangle was there. From that bangle, a ring was made, bangle disappeared, the ring was there. Okay, like us, we as bodies, we appear, we disappear. Okay, we take this form today, tomorrow we will take some other form, the day after we take another form, yeah, or I'm talking about another day, day after day means not day after tomorrow, I will take another form, not that what I meant, that is, each birth I'm taking different forms, but ultimately what is it that is not changing at all? The Atma. So you understand it from both the points. You understand it one from the Paramatma, though Jivatma and Paramatma are the same. We've come from that Paramatma only. But to understand, the first one, we can look at it from the Paramatma point of view. Here, from the bangle, the ornaments point of view, if we look at it, we take different forms. But at the end of it, Even if in all these forms, there is one thing which always remains, which is the gold, that is the Atma. Okay, so we need to, so again, it is reiterating the fact that we are not this body. The body undergoes changes, but we, the part which is not changing is that Atma. That is neither going to be created nor it going to be destroyed. So all beings have come from that Satyatma, that true nature. All are sustained in that true nature, and all goes back to that true nature. To that I offer my salutation. Okay, so understand it fully so that it becomes easier for us to go deeper into that subject. Okay, so when beings are when we are being born, and when we are there, when we live and we depart, but at the end of it, when we are the knowledge that we are seeking is that to reach that particular thing. That is what we need to be aspiring for from Taittiriya Upanishad. So I will also look at, just try to see what are all the other texts which will be relevant to the same case. Okay. So this is from the Taittiriya Upanishad.
यतो वा इमानि भूतानि जायन्ते येन जातानि जीवन्ति यत्प्रयन्त्यभिसंविशन्ति तद्विजिज्ञासस्व तद्ब्रह्मेति.
When beings are born, they live and they depart and they enter. Where do they enter? That knowledge we seek to know. Where is it that we go back to? Okay, where is it that we are going? Tad Brahmeti. We are going to the abode of the Brahman. So that is what we all seek to know. So that is also given in the Taittiriya Upanishad. So we will be looking at not just Yoga Vasistha text, whatever is there in connection to that from other Upanishads or from other texts, we will look into all of that also. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Krishnarpanamastu.